One human, two stunning alien twins, and a catacomb no one returns from. He was just a diplomat until she claimed him. Jackson Cole, gray at the temples and broad in the shoulders, didn't want this assignment. He had retired years ago. Peacekeeper, war hero, galactic negotiator. He'd done it all and he was tired. He preferred his quiet cabin on Mars, a strong cup of black coffee, and maybe some old jazz playing in the background. But the Galactic Union had begged him. One last job. Jackson, just shake some hands on Therex-9 and smile for the holocams. Simple, right? But nothing about Therex-9 was simple. From the moment he stepped off the shuttle, Jackson knew something was off. The planet was too quiet. The people, tall, shimmering, silver-skinned aliens with glowing eyes, watched him like he was something more than a guest, something more than a diplomat. He didn't like that feeling. He liked it even less when he met her. Queen Cyrexia was unlike anything Jackson had seen in his decades of travel. 7 feet tall, her skin glimmered like molten chrome under the palace lights. Her long, elegant limbs moved like liquid, and her 4 eyes, 2 silver, 2 gold, locked onto Jackson the moment he entered the throne room. She didn't smile. She studied him like he was a rare artifact. "You possess something uniquely compatible," she purred, her voice smooth and cold, like velvet wrapped around a dagger. Jackson raised an eyebrow. "That's one way to say hello." She stepped forward. Every part of her moved like she was dancing. The courtiers whispered behind her, but she didn't care. Her gaze never left his face. Jackson had stood before angry warlords, trigger-happy generals, and power-hungry chancellors, but none of them had ever made his heart thump like this, and not in fear, in curiosity, in danger, in something else he didn't want to admit yet. Cyrexia offered him her hand, long fingers tipped with soft silver claws. He took it, expecting a cool, formal shake. What he got was a jolt. Literal electricity. His skin buzzed under her touch, her pupils dilated, her lips parted slightly. And for a second it felt like their minds touched, like she could see him, know him. She didn't let go. "Your physiology," she said slowly, her voice now huskier, "is unlike anything we have recorded. You radiate resonance, power, fertility." Jackson blinked. "Well, that's a new kind of compliment." She smiled then, a real one, sharp, hungry. "You may not realize it, human," she said, stepping closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But your species may be the answer to a question we've been asking for centuries." Jackson's mouth went dry. "Which is?" She leaned in so close, her breath tickled his ear. "How to save ourselves from extinction." He took a half step back, just enough to look her in the eyes. "You're saying I can help your people survive?" Her gaze flicked down his body and back up again, shameless and slow. "Oh yes, but it won't be through politics." He laughed, a nervous chuckle. "Is this some kind of alien pickup line?" She didn't laugh back. "No, Jackson Cole, this is biology. Your people are fertile, passionate, resilient. Traits my species has lost. We have logic, intelligence, technology, but we've grown cold, barren. I was bred for leadership, engineered to be perfect, but perfection is sterile, and now I need imperfection." Jackson had no answer to that. He was still processing the idea that an alien queen was telling him she wanted his genes, and maybe more. He glanced around the room. No one looked shocked, no one even blinked. This wasn't surprising to them. It was expected. He cleared his throat. So, this wasn't about a summit. "No," Cyrexia said, stepping close again. "This was a selection. You were tested the moment you entered orbit. Your DNA, your emotional aura, even your scent. Everything about you fits." He narrowed his eyes. "Fits what?" She raised a hand and placed it on his chest. He could feel the heat of her palm even through the fabric. Her other hand touched his cheek with surprising gentleness. "Fits me. Jackson swallowed. He was too old for this. Too tired. Too smart. But he was also curious, interested, very aware of how soft her voice had become, how warm her touch was, how long it had been since anyone had looked at him like that. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he said, voice low. Cyrexia leaned in until their foreheads nearly touched. "Stay," she said. "Learn us. Touch us. Bond with me. Help me create a future my people thought impossible. I don't want your politics, Jackson Cole." Her 4 eyes locked with his. Her fingers slipped behind his neck. "I want you." Jackson Cole wasn't a man easily shaken, but right now his pulse was pounding harder than the day he talked a Martian warlord out of nuking Saturn's rings. Cyrexia hadn't just propositioned him. She'd studied him, wanted him. Not for a night, not for a treaty, for something far deeper. Her words rang in his ears like a low hum. "I want you." She didn't blink, didn't pull away. Her silver claws lightly traced the edge of his collar like she was drawing invisible lines on a map only she could read. He finally found his voice. "Look, Your Majesty, I'm flattered. Deeply. But I came here with a handshake, not a genetic contribution." Her lips curved into something between a smirk and a growl. "You misunderstand. This isn't about donation. It's about connection. Your species bonds through emotion, touch, pleasure. Our kind. Forgot how. We need someone to remind us." Jackson laughed under his breath, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm just a guy who likes whiskey and quiet mornings. You want the future of your people? Maybe call a scientist." Her eyes darkened. "Your modesty is amusing, but I don't want a test tube, I want a mate. And you, grizzled, wounded, stubborn as you are, you woke something inside me the moment you walked into this room." She turned then, her long form walking toward the balcony of her throne chamber, the semi-translucent folds of her gown drifting like smoke. She looked over her shoulder. "Come. Let me show you why you were brought here." He followed, though. Part of him wondered if he was walking into some kind of strange dream, or trap, or both. Outside, the sky of Therex 9 shimmered with twin moons. Below, glowing gardens stretched out like a dream, vines pulsing with soft light and strange creatures, coiled around marble trees. Far in the distance, tall silver spires rose toward the stars. Cyrexia gestured and a hologram flickered into the air between them. An image of 2 alien infants, clearly Therexian, but with soft golden eyes that looked oddly human. Jackson stared. "Those are projections," she said softly. "Simulations of what our offspring might be. Yours and mine. Not just biologically possible, evolutionarily perfect." Jackson's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to something intimate. "We thought human compatibility was a myth, an old hope whispered in scientific corners. But your genome, it sings to ours, not just physically, emotionally, telepathically." He looked at her, eyes narrowing. "You mean we'd feel what each other feels?" She nodded. "In time, yes. And if the bond completes during mating and we become one, linked forever." Jackson scratched his jaw. "Lady, that's a lot for a guy who just landed 4 hours ago." She chuckled, low and melodic. "You think I offer this lightly? I've waited 100 years, watched envoys come and go, cold, incompatible. But you radiate something we've lost." He sighed. "And what if I say no?" She stepped forward, placed a gentle hand on his chest. "Then you're free to leave, with honor, with gifts, with no pressure. But if you stay..." Her fingers slid up to his neck, her eyes burning into his. "You may not leave alone." He chuckled despite himself. "I thought I was done with surprises." "You are the surprise," she said almost reverently. "To me, to my people, to yourself." The breeze picked up. catching her silver hair, sending it flowing behind her like a banner. Jackson looked into her 4 eyes and saw something strange. Longing, not for power, not for dominance, but for a partner, maybe even love. And suddenly, the idea of quiet mornings and old jazz didn't seem so appealing anymore, not when a goddess with glowing eyes was offering him something eternal. And Jackson Cole? He wasn't walking away, not yet. Jackson didn't move, not because he was afraid. Hell, he'd stared down plasma rifles, rogue AI warlords, even a black hole cult on Vega 12. No, this was something else, a sensation he hadn't felt in decades. He was wanted, not as a soldier, not as a negotiator, as a man. Syrexia's fingers were still on his neck, the pads of them warm, electric. He could almost feel his pulse jumping against her skin. She studied his face like she was trying to memorize. Slowly she leaned in, her voice a silken whisper brushing against his ear. Our ancestors spoke of the joining, not just bodies but memories, souls, pleasure beyond language, and pain shared so deeply it becomes bearable. That's what I offer you. Jackson swallowed hard. That sounds intimate. She smiled. You say it like it's a warning. He stepped back just a little, needing air. His heart was hammering like he was 20 again. You don't know me. I've got scars you can't see, bad dreams, a short fuse, and a back that's been rebuilt twice. Her eyes lit with soft amusement. Good, then we are already alike. That stopped him. You? Jackson Cole wasn't the type to lose control. Years of conflict, diplomacy, and running from things that exploded had taught him to stay calm, stay sharp, stay detached. But as he followed Queen Syrexia through the moonlit halls of her palace, her hand lightly brushing his arm, her voice humming ancient melodies he couldn't understand, detachment was slipping fast. The corridors were alive, literally. Smooth silver walls glowed in soft pulses like they were breathing, or listening. I thought this place was just ceremonial, Jackson muttered, glancing around. It was, Syrexia said, not looking. Until you arrived. Now it's curious. Curious? Our structures are biosensitive. They react to bonded energy, emotion, heat. They've been dormant for decades. She paused, turned her head slowly, her 4 eyes locking onto his with a wicked gleam. But when you touched me, everything began to awaken. Jackson swallowed. Is it weird that's the hottest thing anyone's ever said to me? She laughed, not regal or refined, but warm. A little breathy. It made something inside him tighten. They stopped at a tall archway. It shimmered open like liquid glass, revealing a chamber lit by soft blue light and drifting white mist. The scent hit him first. Something sweet, floral, spiced, like someone bottled a memory of a perfect dream. This is one of the Queen's sanctum pods, Syrexia explained as she stepped inside. Traditionally used for healing, meditation, and selective bonding. Selective bonding, huh? Jackson said, stepping in behind her. Sounds clinical, dangerous, a little sexy. She turned to face him, close enough now that her breath warmed his collarbone. It's all of those things. She gestured and the room responded. A circular platform emerged from the floor, glowing with soft light. Ribbons of energy began rising around it like steam. I'll warn you, she said, unfastening the elegant wrap that clung to her body, revealing curves wrapped in thin threads of luminescent fabric. Our species does not experience intimacy the way humans do. Jackson stood still, heartbeat drumming in his ears. How do you experience it? He asked, barely managing to speak. With our whole nervous system, she said, stepping onto the platform, bare feet glowing where they touched the energy field. Every touch is magnified, every breath is shared, every feeling transferred. She extended her hand toward him. But you are human and your body is intense, your emotions are louder, your touch sharper. He raised an eyebrow. I've been called intense before. Usually during arguments. She smiled softly. You'll be called something else by the time this is over. He stepped onto the platform, feeling the heat of the energy rise around his boots. You sure I won't break you? He said, with a half smirk. Her voice turned to silk. Oh, Jackson Cole, I hope you do. The moment his hand met hers, the chamber exploded with light. Not painfully, not harsh, but a warm, electric cascade that danced across his skin and into his spine. His muscles twitched, his blood sang. He felt her emotions like whispers behind. His eyes, curiosity, desire, fear, hunger, not for food, for him. Her hand slid up his chest, and where she touched, his nerves lit up like someone had poured hot starlight directly into his veins. He gasped, stumbling forward, catching himself against her waist. Easy, she whispered. The connection is forming. He felt her in his mind, images, thoughts, sensations not his own. Laughter under alien moons, loneliness in a bed, too wide. A scream swallowed in a royal chamber after another failed conception. And under it all, a single, pulsing hope. Him. You're bleeding into me, he said quietly. Not bleeding, she said. Blending. Her mouth brushed his jaw, his neck, the space just below his ear. Every spot felt like it had been waiting for her, specifically her, for a lifetime. She moved like someone memorizing a hymn. Reverent, careful, but hungry. Jackson's armor shifted, parts releasing on instinct as their connection deepened. The chamber responded, casting soft golden light over their joined forms. His bare skin touched hers at last. She gasped. You burn, she breathed. Your skin is hot. I'm guessing that's a good thing? She didn't answer. Instead, her claws traced his spine as the energy ribbons circled them like serpents, weaving around their bodies in a cocoon of motion and sound. Their breathing synchronized. His heartbeat pounded in time with the pulses of the chamber. Her body shimmered with bioluminescent light. And then she said something that wasn't teasing, wasn't seductive. It was quiet and real. I don't want to be a queen tonight. He leaned in, eyes locked on hers. Then who do you want to be? Her voice barely rose above a breath. Yours. And Jackson? War-hardened, tired, utterly human Jackson felt himself slip into something deeper than diplomacy, deeper than pleasure, deeper than biology. He pulled her close, not because it was expected, but because it felt right. Even if the galaxy burned around them tomorrow, tonight, they'd ignite together. Jackson Cole had no idea where her skin ended and his began. Every nerve in his body felt alive, like someone had poured lightning into his bloodstream and then whispered, "Don't stop." Syrexia moved against him like flowing metal, her body humming with power and warmth, her breath echoing through his mind even when her lips weren't moving. This wasn't sex. Not just. It was communion, merging, a dance written before either of them were born. She gasped as he pulled her closer, her voice echoing inside his head and around the chamber at once. Your thoughts. They're so loud. Jackson groaned softly, trying to focus, but it was like she was inside him, seeing the sharp, broken edges of his life. The old battlefield screams, the lovers he'd walked away from, the smell of Martian blood and earth, rain in his mother's hands when he was a child. He expected her to recoil, to flinch. She didn't. She held it, every rough thing he'd buried in himself, and cradled it like it was hers. Her 4 eyes shimmered with something he didn't recognize at first. Then he realized. She didn't pity him. She understood him. Your pain is beautiful, she whispered. It means you feel. We've forgotten how to suffer, Jackson Cole. And in forgetting, we forgot how to love. He kissed her then. Really kissed her. Not careful, not hesitant. Just raw, like a dam finally, bursting. She moaned into his mouth and the entire chamber responded. Walls lit up. The energy coils thickened. Every surface around them pulsed in time with their heartbeats, which were now one. their minds linked fully. He saw her memories, hundreds of years of ruling alone, forbidden tears behind silk curtains, nights lying awake not from fear but from silence, the weight of being perfect, of having no one who could touch her, really touch her. Until now. "I thought I was beyond needing anyone," she whispered. "But then you looked at me like I wasn't a queen, just a woman wanting." Jackson smiled against her lips. "You say that like it's a flaw." She leaned into him, forehead to his, voice shaking. "It's the first real thing I've felt in a century." Their bodies moved together in perfect rhythm, like the chamber had been built to echo their pulse. The union wasn't slow, it was a flood, a joining of bone, muscle, mind. She cried out softly, not from pain, but relief. As if something ancient inside her finally relaxed. He understood that feeling too well. The chamber grew brighter, more vibrant. Holograms of stars, galaxies, and strange alien DNA spun above them like a celestial ballet. Somewhere in the glowing strands, two genetic codes twisted around each other and snapped together, not just compatible, perfectly fused. Jackson barely noticed when their sweat-glossed skin began to glow where they touched. Her energy was inside him now, his strength inside her. They were no longer separate beings. They were one new thing. When it ended, they didn't speak for a while. Just breathed, just held each other. The room dimmed to a soft golden pulse. Jackson lay on the cushioned floor of the sanctum. Cyrexia curled beside him, her long limbs wrapped around him like vines, her hair spilled across his chest. He looked down at her. "You good?" She laughed softly, like wind brushing against a flame. "I'm better than good, I'm alive." They didn't say, "I love you." Not yet. The words were too small for what had just happened. But Jackson knew, and so did she. She traced her fingers across his ribs where faint alien patterns had started to appear. Bioluminescent veins forming new constellations in his skin. "You're changing," she whispered, voice reverent. "Yeah?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "Into what?" She smiled slowly, eyes glowing. "Into mine." He kissed her again, slower this time, and quietly, beneath the warmth of her body and the hum of the chamber, he realized something terrifying and thrilling. He was falling for her, not just her body, not just her strength, but her soul. And it wasn't a maybe. It was already too late. He was hers, and God's help the galaxy if anyone tried to take her away. Jackson Cole woke up wrapped in Cyrexia's limbs, his skin still glowing faintly with the aftershock of their union. His breath was steady, slower than usual. Her heartbeat pulsed against his chest, synchronized with his. Literally. It was the first time in years he hadn't woken up from a nightmare. No guns, no alarms, no regrets. Just her. She stirred beside him and opened her eyes, all four of them, glowing softly like twin moons through mist. Her voice came quiet and husky. "You were in my dreams last night." Jackson smirked. "I was in your arms last night too. Maybe those things are related." Cyrexia chuckled. A musical, throaty sound that made his chest tighten in the best way. She nuzzled his neck, trailing a finger along the glowing lines on his skin. They didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because the adrenaline wouldn't let go, and because every breath they shared now felt like a declaration, a promise. The palace had quieted, for now. The first wave of attackers had been beaten back. Their bodies were gone, absorbed by the bio-cleaners or reclaimed by the palace floor itself, which Jackson was trying very hard not to think too hard about. He stood at the edge of the observatory now, shirtless, arms crossed, the stars of Therex 9 shining across his scarred chest like constellations. The glow from his skin had settled into fine tracer lines, faint but permanent. Like tattoos made of starlight, alien symbols curled across his arms, his back, his spine, marks of the bond. He wasn't just with Syrexia anymore. He was part of her, literally. Behind him, she approached quietly, her movements fluid, almost weightless. She was in a different kind of armor now, slim, elegant, grown from the palace itself. A living suit laced with pale violet energy. Her crown had changed too, thinner, sharper, like blades of silver wrapping around her head. A warrior queen. "Your changes are accelerating again," she murmured, brushing a hand along his back. "Your neural field is beginning to emit Thorexian resonance," Jackson smirked. "That's a fancy way to say I'm glowing." "You're adapting faster than any projection," she said. "You were always more than human. Now you're becoming something else." He turned toward her. "Yours." Her eyes softened. "Yes." They kissed. Brief, hot, electric, and when they parted, she touched her forehead to his. "They've sent a message," she whispered. "The Hygiene Council. They're deploying the Arkborn." He froze. "Sounds biblical." "They're not soldiers," she said. "They're ancient, genetically engineered enforcers, sleeper warriors from the birth of our empire. Once awakened, they don't stop, until the bloodline they're sent to erase is dust." Jackson exhaled slowly. "And I'm the dust?" She nodded. "You and me both. They will not stop with your body. They will erase you from memory, from archives, from genetic records. It will be as if you never existed." He stepped back, cracked his neck. "Well, screw that." Syrexia looked at him, all four eyes sharp. "We don't have to fight them alone. There's a vault, deep beneath the palace, sealed for millennia. My ancestors feared it, but in your presence it may open." "What's inside?" She paused. "A fusion core, designed for emergencies. Or ascension." He raised an eyebrow. "Ascension sounds like something with side effects. It merges the bonded pair into a unified neural field. One body, two souls. Absolute power. Or death." Jackson grinned. "And here I was, worried this relationship might get boring." The ground rumbled beneath their feet. She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "They've arrived." The sky above the palace split open with a thunderous crack as a ship unlike anything Jackson had seen descended. Not metal, not even alive. It looked like it was made of memory. Pale white, flickering at the edges like it didn't fully exist in this reality. It landed silently, and from its core, three beings emerged. Tall, cloaked in shadow. Eyes like frozen suns, bodies humming with ancient code. The Arkborn, Syrexia's hand gripped his. "We run." "No," Jackson said. She blinked. "What?" He pulled her close. "We fight, but we fight smart. You said the vault only opens for someone like me, then let's open it." She hesitated. "If the fusion fails..." He kissed her, fast, fierce, final. "Then we go out together." The halls beneath the palace were dark and humming. Old, forgotten. Symbols lit as they passed, responding to his breath, his heartbeat, his bond. Finally, they reached it. The door. A giant sphere of obsidian, covered in etchings that looked eerily similar to the marks on Jackson's skin. He stepped forward, pressed his palm to the center. It pulsed and opened. Inside was light, pure light. Floating, waiting. Syrexia gasped. "It's been dormant for thousands of years." He looked at her. "You ready?" She nodded once. "With you?" "Always." Together, they stepped into the sphere, and the light swallowed them whole. What came out wasn't Jackson, wasn't Syrexia. It was both, a single form, radiant with fused energy. Two voices in one mind, human strength wrapped in alien elegance, power that bent the air. When the Arkborn found the vault, they paused. The fusion being turned its head, spoke with both voices at once. "You came to erase us." The Arkborn raised their weapons. "You're too late." And then they struck. The Arkborn moved as one, ancient and inhuman. Silent, lethal, forged to end empires. Their weapons didn't fire. They unraveled space itself, collapsing light and sound into warping blades of energy. The fusion being that was once Jackson Cole and Syrexia stood unmoving, not afraid, not trembling, transcended. The air shimmered around them, as the chamber responded to their awakening. Walls sang, symbols blazed. The ancient technology, long forgotten by the Thyrexians, now roared to life in worship of something it had always been waiting for. Not a queen, not a soldier, a pair. The Arcborn struck first. 3 impossibilities, moving faster than time itself. Space tore. The floor cracked, but the fused being moved faster. With a thought, the ground bent upward like liquid, shielding them. With a breath, their bodies split into ribbons of light and reformed on the far side of the chamber. Jackson's grit, Syrexia's elegance, a storm in humanoid form. They raised a hand, a sphere of memory, yes, memory, stolen from the air, rushed forward and imploded the first Arcborn in a flash of colorless fire. Gone, not killed, erased. The others faltered. A fraction of hesitation. It was enough. The being blurred forward, speaking in a voice made of 2 hearts. We are the bonded. We are survival. We are what comes next. The second Arcborn launched its soul blade, a weapon that severed identities, but it shattered the moment it touched the fused form's skin. Jackson's raw human defiance surged forward, burning through it like a match against dry paper. Then came the last, the oldest. It stood still, silent, calculating. The being approached, slowly now like a final breath before silence. You were made to protect a dying empire, the dual voice said, but we've made something new, something stronger, something whole. The last Arcborn tried to speak, but before it could, the being reached forward, placed its hand over the ancient enforcer's chest, and whispered a final word. Remember. The Arcborn froze, and then gently fell to its knees, its weapons deactivated, its power faded, not destroyed, redeemed. The battle was over. The fusion slowly unraveled then, energy unwinding like silk in the wind. Light bled from their skin, limbs separated, and Jackson Cole found himself on one knee gasping for air, Syrexia in his arms. But she was smiling. So was he. Later. The palace was quiet again. No alarms, no red lights, just peace. Jackson sat beneath the open ceiling of the throne garden, staring up at the stars he'd once watched from his cabin on Mars. His arm still bore the glowing tracery of the bond, though fainter now, settled, stable. Syrexia stood beside him, not just a queen now. Something more. The throne was hers again, but so was he, in every way that mattered. You know, Jackson said, smirking, for a diplomatic mission, this turned out a little wild. She smiled and sat beside him. You saved a species. He shrugged. You did most of the work. You gave me something no one ever has, she said softly, resting her head on his shoulder. Choice. Passion. A future. He turned to her. So, what happens now? She looked toward the stars. Now, she said, we rebuild. We teach the next generation how to love like this, how to lead like this. And you, Jackson Cole, you stay. With me. He chuckled, pulled her into his lap. Queen's orders? No, she whispered, kissing him. Lovers. And in that quiet, in that warmth, with galaxies spinning above them and a life unwritten ahead, Jackson realized something. He didn't just belong to her. He belonged here, with her, forever. The galaxy would remember them, not just as warriors, not just as rulers, but as the first love story that redefined an entire species, and this time nobody was getting erased.